Bow, bow, bow. Hello, everybody. Welcome to SketchCraft Live podcast. Rogue One. We're going to talk Rogue One. Spoilers abound. So if you haven't seen the movie, you read that little thing right there. It says spoilers. So you know, right? We're going to talk about here. Talk about Rogue One with me is Brandon. Breathes pretty fucking heavily. James, say hello.
Hi guys. Hello.
Brandon Guerrera. Saul Guerrera James, right?
Sure, why not?
Also joining the podcast for the first time is fellow artist Steven Crowe. Steven, say hello.
Hey, what's up, guys?
All right, so if you're not familiar with Steven, you're an artist, right? You draw.
I pretend.
Well, yeah, well, I pretend I'm famous, so you know that's how it works. Brandon pretends he's my friend.
I think, as I was thinking about it before the podcast started, I remembered you. I think you came up on the Phoenix Con. I think you had, like, no offense, but an Asian girlfriend.
Yeah.
No offense.
I mean, like, I don't know. What if she's not Asian? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. I'm being polite. Anyways, I remember Steven. It took me a second, and then I remember that he's come up, talked to you, bought some art, talked advice and stuff like that. I remember him now, and I remember that his girlfriend came up, I think, first one time when he wasn't there yet or hadn't been to the show yet, and she was setting up for him or something like that.
Yeah, that was her.
Yes,
yeah, there's
I
no
remember.
offense. I mean, I'm that little nerdy guy who got the Asian girl. That's like every high school.
You did every fanboy's dream there. You have the whole setup. You're an artist, and you have an Asian girlfriend.
Yeah, I'm a lucky guy.
There you go. Fuck you, Rob. All right, Star Wars.
That wasn't uncomfortable, right? That went all according to plan. I don't know.
That's how we
I don't
started
know.
off real good here.
I don't know what Brandon does all day. You're going to say, I remember you from a con. That's nice. You know, that's an option, Brandon.
Yeah, but that's too vague. That means like, oh, hey, I remember you. Yeah, we shook hands. No, it's like I specifically
This
remember.
was very specific. You got me on that one.
Like, I want
Like,
people
you
to...
had the Asian girl with the booty, right? That was you.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted people to know that I remember them. Even when I'm just busy with my face in your prints, handing out prints and taking money, I remember people who come up to the table.
In all fairness, Steven, one day I'll be on the cast with Jim Chung, and he'll make Brandon feel weird too. So.
Fuck Jim Chung.
That being said, welcome to the Rogue One discussion. I tried to get my buddy Rich, who was here last year. Brandon, you actually don't have to drink into the mic.
I forgot that I didn't mute it.
Now you know. So, Rich joined us last year for The Force Awakens and the Star Wars. I don't know where he is. Sometimes he disappears. So, he couldn't make it. And Ashley hasn't seen the movie, but she does tell me that she managed to buy a box of Rogue One Kleenex. So, my guess is she got the... my guess is that she Shifty Eddie having a pretty good time tonight. She's having the cold. She got the Hoth sniffles. Anyhow, I saw the movie dose times this weekend. I actually bought my tickets in advance, one for Friday night, and then I knew I'd want a day to think about it and Sunday to go back. Even if I liked it or hated it, I knew it wasn't gonna. It would. How do I say this? It is impossible to make a movie as bad as Attack of the Clones. Unless you are the one making all the decisions. Being that there are multiple decision makers now, I just knew that was impossible. So I'd be willing to see the movie at least twice in the theaters, as I have since Jedi, all the way up until Attack of the Clones, which I was out. That being said, Steven, did you see it once or twice this weekend, or 8 times? How many times did you see it?
I only saw it once this weekend, but I definitely feel like I need to go back. I'm probably going to go back tomorrow and watch it again. There's just like a lot to take in.
Mm-hmm. And Brandon, you?
I saw it once, and once is not enough. I want to go back a second time.
All right, so that being said, so dose once. Steven, why don't we start off with you? What did you overall think of the film? What did you think? What were your thoughts? You can talk about anything in any order. Your discussion.
It is definitely the prettiest Star Wars movie ever made. I think in terms of cinematography and just like the geography that they hit on different planets. It's gorgeous, and just the way they filmed it was so cool. Like some of the dog fighting that they did, how they'd have the camera like mounted on the back of the X-wing and just flying all around. It's just everything just looked top notch, and like out of everything in that movie, I think that was probably my favorite part, the cinematography. And then, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of wish that it would have been a little bit slower though, because I don't feel like you ever got like really
2.5 hour film, right?
Well, it's like, I mean, it's spoilers, so I can say it's like everybody dies at the end, but the only person that I emotionally felt connected to was the robot, and I was like,
Yes.
oh, that sucked. Everybody else, I was like, I don't really know you enough to care that you're dead. But I still really liked it. Like, I'd still give it an 8, but I still think, I don't know. Like, I really, really like The Force Awakens, so that's going to probably be my favorite Star Wars movie of all time.
Brandon, your thoughts?
Well, first off, my favorite scene about the whole movie was when Vader is, you don't see Vader, you just see this darkness, and you hear him breathe in this hallway, and then his lightsaber lights up, and it just illuminates the red, and he just goes down this hallway, just ripping these dudes up. At one point, he puts a dude on the ceiling with the Force, and basically walks under him and guts him with his lightsaber. Like, if this was rated R, it would have been insane. Like, it was the coolest thing I've ever seen in a Star Wars movie, or even in a movie, for a fact. It was just so badass, that whole hallway scene. It was like something of a mix of a horror movie and Star Wars, because it was so creepy. You know, guys are screaming, trying to get out of the room. K2SO, the robot, I loved him. He was my favorite character. He was a robot, but he was cool as shit, because, you know, I like the voice actor from, from Firefly and all that. Alan, I'll butcher his last name, Tudyk? I don't remember, but I like him as an actor. But I liked him. I liked everything about him as the robot. I didn't really connect with a lot of the other characters, just because, you know, it's so fast. It's like, hey, this is us. This is happening. We're moving here. We're going there, you know, nonstop. But like Steven said, visually, it was beautiful. Like, it looked amazing. All the angles, the shots, when they're on the beach, and, you know, it's the low angle, and you see the I don't know what they're called, because I'm not, you start ATT, whatever, the big camel looking robot things walking. That shit was cool. It was really neat. I don't know if I liked it more than Force Awakens, but I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10.
Interesting. So I find it funny. The fast thing is funny, because every time I've seen like a Star Wars movie minus the prequels, I've been like, that went by really fast. Jedi was fast. Empire. I mean, if you hear the original reviews for Star Wars, like if you ever read them, like I grew up reading the Leonard Maltin's Guide to Movies, and I mean, it's like, this movie's so fast, there's no time to breathe. Like, they get faster and faster. That's why the famous quote from George Lucas was faster, more intense. Like, that would be the only direction he'd give actors on set. Like, just say it faster and more intense. So there's nothing new about that to me. I think if there's anything to be, it's interesting. Some of the negative feedback that I've gotten from the film was like, well, you know, I felt like, Rob, you had to read a book. You had to read the Catalyst book to kind of get more out of the movie. And I don't know how that's a good or a bad thing anymore, given that these films got to compete. They got to compete with Game of Thrones, right? And Westworld. And we're talking about shows that can spend 6 hours just setting stuff up. You know, imagine if you go see this movie and after 2.5 hours, it's just the opening part of the fucking movie. It's just Galen Erso and his wife, you know, right. and it ends, right, with, like, the first hour ends with Krennic showing up, you know? And then the second episode is all about, you know, the time in between Jyn was a kid and when she's 16 and leaves Saw Gerrera. And then the third episode is about Diego Luna's character, Captain Andor. You see what I mean? Like, and they get the droid, and then he reprograms them. Like you can see how you could cut this up and spread it out. Right. Except that they're just never going to do that. You know, one, there isn't a budget to tell a Star Wars story like that, and two, I think the best. Well, two, they're not going to compete with the fact that the movies still sell at movie theaters. I think the day that'll happen is when Star Wars stops selling at movie theaters. or they find a Star Wars story to tell that can work on TV, and I mean,
Right.
hasn't really worked out well for Agents of Shield. Daredevil, now that's differently. I think it can work, but again, the budget you need to do it right. Like Game of Thrones is shot on location somewhere in Europe or all over the world, right? Spain.
Mm-hmm.
Westworld's shot out in Utah, right? So, Star Wars, unless you're shooting on a desert planet, which I never want to see again. I'm just getting tired of desert planets, guys. Like, sorry, that's also a problem with space is there's mostly just rocks everywhere, So it was nice to get a bunch of locations that weren't just a desert planet. But for me, I don't mind the speed thing because, again, it was 2.5 hours. It was long enough. I think the only complaint I have about the film was I just think like it didn't not need an opening crawl, but an opening crawl really would have helped the people who were like, "What?" after the fucking thing stopped.
Right.
They were expecting the music, and they were like, one guy yelled, "What?" Like he didn't know.
Well, there's people sitting in front of me that were arguing about the date, like how many years before. One guy's like, "Oh, this movie is 40 years before New Hope," and this other person's like, "No, it's like."
And these people
days.
Vote, Brandon.
Yeah, and they're just sitting there arguing. And
these people vote, and they don't know what movie this took place.
It starts and it says, a galaxy far away, whatever. And then one guy goes, "Yeah, you ready?" And like it shows nothing, and the guy goes, "What the fuck?" Like, so that neither one really got an answer to it right about there. And then so I'm like, oh, they'll Google it afterwards or something. But it would have been nice to have that just like, even if, I mean, we obviously know we're watching a movie, but if they were to say before blah, 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 I don't know, something. The people that don't know.
Yeah, I definitely felt like it was jarring. It was just weird, like going from a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And it's just like, oh, space. No, overall, like, I don't know how to feel about myself anymore.
Well, to that end, it's like the only. I mean, how do I say? It's like if they're gonna try something different, they try it now. If the movie didn't work financially, then they'll try different things. So, one thing I've seen with this current regime, the Kathleen Kennedy version of Lucasfilm, is they're pretty receptive to fan feedback, and in the better way possible. Like, Lucas didn't like the fact that The Matrix beat out The Phantom Menace for best fight scene. So he's like, I'm going to put Boba Fett in the movie. It's going to be the best fight scenes ever in Attack of the Clones. There's a lot of fight scenes, none of which I gave a flying shit about. Like he filled them with fight sequences. Right. And you're like, wow, Yoda doing somersaults. Really care about it.
And shit.
Yeah, I don't think he got it. So, the one thing that I also like about this film is that when I was a kid, I didn't really like the Jedi. I liked the Jedi stuff. I like Luke versus Vader. I was more interested when when Han Solo would approach Vader, because then you're like, you're fucked, right? Like, what do you do, man? Han Solo shoots at Vader, and he just takes the fucking hit with his hand, and so whenever I used to play the Star Wars role-playing game, Weston used to have this paper role-playing game I played the shit out of when I was a kid. I used to write campaigns that were just based around everyone else, like just rebel fighters, smugglers, anything but no lightsabers, no Jedi, because it's a giant universe,
Right.
So I like the fact that there was none other than Vader, and like that's a guy you never like. That's some dude you just hear about. That's some guy that like Vader in a hallway is like my worst nightmare when I was 5. Like until I saw Nightmare on Elm Street, then I had a whole new nightmare. Never got in a waterbed ever again, I'll tell you that much.
That's fair.
But I really enjoyed the movie a lot. It did something that, that this, how do I say this? Like, I wasn't bored. Like, you could say, well, maybe I didn't feel for this character, that character. Hey, I never felt for Uncle Owen and Abaru. And they got they suffered the worst death short of that Gamoran guard in Jedi who got eaten alive. Like, or the Gamoran guard got chewed in half by that Rancor. It's pretty bad, dude. But so did the Twilight chick, right? I didn't care if she died or not. But Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, never really. And you know what's crazy about that too? I was thinking, like, someone was telling me that he's like walking in, how do I say this? Like, the characters in this one at least seem to, like in the new movie, seem to be referencing things that occurred. You know, people are like, oh, I wish they would have developed more. I don't know how much more you can develop. You know, this movie went into reshoots. They spent millions of dollars trying to. It's 2.5 hours. It's a group of people. I don't know how much you can do. You know, short of limiting the space. What they need to do is, if they're going to do 7 characters, they're going to get tons of story and tons of time. They have to limit the traveling and the missions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one could say, rather than going to Jeddah to meet up with some guys to get something that someone has, they already just have it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think they could have almost cut out who was the guy that came and picked her up? I'm terrible with the names now. Growing up, I had like all the Star Wars names in my head. I can't remember.
Saw Gerrera?
But, yeah, I think they could have cut him out because he just felt like a non-factor, and you would have had time to get to know like what
Well,
all
I
these
think-
other characters are, and they were awesome seeming. Like everybody seemed like they could have been a main character, and you would have been fine with it.
Or he could have been leading them. It's just the role that he played was just to hold on to a guy and to kind of show like a rebellion version of Vader, right? He's like a guy who's like become like a good version of Vader. Like, he's for the good side, but he's pretty, he's less human. But, you know, you say those things, but look, I don't know, man. I was telling Brandon the other day, Jake Parker's an artist, right? And he's got this video running around where it's like, you know, finished, not perfect. You know, and I buy into that half and half. Like, I'm like, yeah, that's true, except I've finished shitty projects, and that ain't a way to go. That being said, the movie got done, it came out, and it's resoundingly enjoyable to go see. Any movie that gets me to see it twice. I saw Batman versus Superman, and I was like, I never want to sit through this again. You know? And I like the acting. I like Ben Affleck. Like Henry Cavill. Like Gal Gadot. You know? See that Wonder Woman trailer? Can't wait to watch it. But please don't make me sit through this fucking movie one more time. You know? I can't do it. I can't do it. You know? Yeah. So I think we're all sitting back. It's and you know, we're now at a point where fan edits are old enough to like the kids who grew up with the fan edit. I can fix episode 1. They're like 20. They can drink now. You know, you know? Like they're legal. So everyone has an opinion how to fix Star Wars, right? And I think at this point for me, I don't know how you felt, Steven, coming out of like Revenge of the Sith. I did not pay to go see Revenge of the Sith. I actually had no intentions of even seeing it at all because I was done. But a friend of mine paid. He's like, I gotta get your opinion on it. I'm like, I just don't want to do it anymore. I just don't make me watch Star Wars. I didn't want to do it. I don't want to do it. You know, like, can we go watch Galaxy Quest? You know, like Spaceballs. I don't fucking know, man. And then after I went in the Force Awakens going, man, I just don't know. You know, and came out going like finished, not perfect, but did a lot right. This movie does just as much right, and in some ways just as much like, well, you know, they could tweak on that. But they seem to be wanting to try. I mean, I cared about the droid, and I didn't give a fuck about one of the name one extracurricular character in the Attack of the Clones that wasn't a pre-existing character that you cared about. You see what I'm saying? Like, you don't. You don't.
Well, there's Plo Koon, but that's just because I like the Jedi.
Okay, the fact that you even know that name means you deserve to be hit, right? Like, I mean, no, I'm not saying that. I dropped Zam Wessel the other day. I'm like, why do I know this? I don't know math, you know, but I know fucking Zam Wessel. Like, I spent 2 weeks stressing over a driver's test, and I remember who Zam Wessel is, so fuck me, right? So, but this company is committed to making movies that we care about. And I drew Plo Koon in an Attack of the Clones piece of fan art before the movie came out, so I care.
It probably just hurt you so much worse watching that arena scene.
It's the worst beatdown of Jedi or piss poor fighting since Transformers the movie. You remember like the opening to Transformers the animated movie when the Decepticons blow a hole in the ship and all the characters I just spent 4 years watching on TV who survived countless adventures stand there and just get killed. That's what the Emperor shot is when they all go see the Emperor and they just stand there and get waxed. I'm like, fuck this. You know, like I just don't give a shit. I
Then
think
there's that
with
awkward
the
filming of the old guy fighting.
I think with the Donnie Yen character, some things could have been done. One, when he's saying the force, I want the force towards me, he could say it a little quieter.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's almost like they just I don't know the sound. Like,
They want it to be a catchphrase. They want you to
just
really
say it. You could just say it under his breath. You don't have to, because a guy who's doing that, I'd be like, you can shut the fuck up now. I don't care what you believe in. That is fucking annoying. I get to say, my favorite food is French fries. My favorite food is French fries. My favorite, you just make fuck you and your French fries like right now. Just fuck you, man. We're in a fucking jail. I think too they could have given him one of those, maybe like he's got that stick, right?
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like maybe it should have been, since they're kind of showing some of the Clone Wars stuff in this movie, they could have shown those gaff sticks those robots had in Sith, right? Something like it.
Like a power stick.
Yeah, just like a vibro or just something so that when they get hit, they kind of like, because you're like, well, I guess Stormtrooper armor is essentially useless anyway. If you go back and watch the original films, they're fucking just, guys are like running their heads into fucking walls and shit. So, whatever, But I mean, like, this is all nitpicky, dude. Like I'm nitpicking the way, like, you're like, man, I just think we could. And I keep thinking to myself, like, I really wish we had a way into like, I wish we had the Amnesia Fortnite documentary behind the film, because I want to know how bad did it go at one point. How tough was it? What were the arguments about, right? How many people got to say what? Who got the final call? Because the whole thing leading up to this movie was reshoots. And we know after a year of waiting for Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad, that can go poorly.
Right.
But this worked out well. So the tone, everyone was like, well, they're going to make it more like Force Awakens. And then people got, right? Because the internet loves to argue, right? So it's like, fuck the Force Awakens, fuck it, Then you get these other people who are like, it needs to be its own thing. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Whatever it wasn't working. We'll see what they make. And at the end of the day, everyone died.
Right.
Awesome. Now, I have a question, you guys. Did Red 5, the guy who had Luke's call sign that dies in the X-Wing, did he not look like the kid from Up to me? Like, I think, no one's saying this, but I think the kid from Up was originally
he's the bloated dude, right?
Was Red 5. No, he's this little chubby Chinese guy, right? Like he's in the X-Wing and he gets waxed by a TIE fighter. Like almost immediately.
I'll look him up.
Yeah, see?
I don't remember. I did like some of the little Easter eggs, like the blue milk, or those I don't know their names, but I don't like you and he don't like you either.
Honda Bob and
guys.
Dr. Evazan.
Yeah, those two were in there, and I was like, I didn't know their names, but I just, nudged my wife, and I'm like, we don't like you either, or the fuck they are. So, I mean, like, I'm not obviously the biggest Star Wars fan, but these movies are making me become one, and just like the new stuff, and
well, we're now officially in Star Wars, the modern age, right? So the Golden Age is the first 3 films. You could say technically the Silver Age is the prequels. Though I try to call that the negative age. And then we would be in the modern age of Star Wars. I mean, these movies are going through what comics went through. Over the course of 30 years, they're going through it. You could call this, the prequel era might be called the legacy age. It's all that stuff in between. I don't know what you want to call it. The Rob doesn't give a fuck anymore age, as far as I'm concerned. And now I'm invested. I'm like, all right, I want to see more of what they're doing here. And I don't care that they try some CG stuff to bring back a Tarkin or a Leia, because quite frankly, at least they're pushing that technology forward, like here and there. They didn't fucking CGI an entire jungle. They CGI'd one dude, really tried to make it work, and they got pretty fucking close. Like I'm like, man, that's fucking weird. Like if that were a guy in makeup pretending to be Peter Cushing, it would look like the end of the Sith where there was just that guy with the nose and he's like doing this, right? You remember that one shot? You're like, Or it would look like, remember the guy who played Nixon in The Watchmen? Remember when they get Nixon's the president in The Watchmen and it's like clearly bad makeup? You're like, ooh. Or like when Leah Thompson is old, like in Back to the Future 2. So I mean, look, they're trying and those things are cool. we obviously got CGI creatures down. I mean, I just watched that giant fucking raccoon dude, Rocket Raccoon in the trailer before the movie. Droids were CGI. Droids look fine. CGI characters, we got that down. CGI humans. Look, I put it this way. For me, it sort of starts with Terminator, right? The T-1000. Kind of works its way up to Jar Jar, which, iffy. I mean, it was a good effect. It worked, but, we didn't care. You end up with Gollum, which totally worked, but not human, right? That's still a creature. Then you get Avatar, which you're like, man, I don't mind watching that. That chick's half naked. She's blue. I don't care. It works, right? I care. Like they're dead. Then you got like the ape technology now with the fucking the Planet of the Apes movie. And for me, that's Tarkin shit, which kind of like piggybacks off the Benjamin Button / what they've been doing in the Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty good. The Leia one at the end seemed a little off, but I don't know, man. I mean, who knows? Who knows how long they had to do it? Who knows how long they had? I mean, the Tarkin thing is pretty close, but I mean, it's just another 5 years. You keep cutting me off, Brandon. Can I finish before you fucking talk? Like,
go ahead.
I let you talk about his Asian girlfriend for 15 minutes. Like, go ahead, Brandon. What do you got to say?
No, go ahead.
I forget now.
No, I didn't forget. Okay, so with the Tarkin guy, because I'm not, like I said, the hugest Star Wars fan, I didn't really think about it at the time, but I was watching it, and I'm like, I lean over to Jessica, I'm like, isn't that guy dead? She was, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, well, all right. So then later, I look it up, and the guy passed away in like '94, but he looked real enough to where I didn't really think twice about it. I thought, okay, well, maybe it's him, or maybe it's someone who looks like him, and they just kind of altered his face a little. So I didn't really think about it while watching it. The Princess Leia, obviously, because I know she's still alive and how she looks now, but the other guy, Tarkin, I was just like, did I see him before? Or is it just someone who really looks like him? Just like the chick who leads the Rebels. She looks like the chick who played that actress back in the day to me. Like they look. Sure.
Well, there was an internet rumor going around, which I stayed away from internet rumors, but after the movie comes out, then I familiarized myself with them because I consider internet rumors or speculation at this point to be equal with spoilers because there's so many people doing it. Someone's going to logically guess the fucking answer, right? No one's smart enough to outthink the hive mind that is the fucking internet when it comes to movie spoilers. So there was this fan theory running around that Jyn Erso might actually be Princess Leia. And that Jyn Erso is a cover name. And at the end you'd find out that she was actually Rogue One. Right? But if you'd read Catalyst, you would have known that was just horseshit. So I'm not a fan of saying that you got to read a book to get more out of a movie. That being said, in lieu of the fact that Star Wars kind of can't do a 12-hour fucking show, 10-hour Marvel series to set up movies or flesh out the universe, especially since, the fucking stories take place across apparently 100 years now, maybe even 1,000 years, depending on what movies they do. A book seems like a really good idea, especially if it's a well-written book. And Catalyst is well-written. It's small in scope. The story of it could be done in a Netflix series, minus the special effects if they kept it down. And what was interesting to me is I felt the tension in the first part of the film, the opening, because I knew what these characters already went through. And they did a good job of linking that up versus, an example of this would have been back in the 90s, they had a book came out called Shadows of the Empire, right, which was supposed to be the official 3.5 or episode, 5.5 in between Empire and Jedi.
Does that still count as canon?
No, none of that does. It's considered legacy now.
That sucks.
So the only thing that's canon is the 6 movies, episodes 1 through 6, and then starting with Aftermath moving forward. And the cartoon series Clone Wars and the cartoon series Rebels. And I'm with you. It's been a barrier to me so far because right now the writing in the books just isn't at Timothy Zahn level quality or even Michael J. Stackpole or Kevin J. Anderson or A.C. Crispin's Han Solo trilogy level of quality. But it's been getting better. Claudia Gray wrote a really good book, the Stars book and Bloodlines. My only problem is the books, generally speaking, the content that is in the book, like in Bloodlines, would have been the inciting incident for one of Zahn's novels or one of Kevin J. Anderson's novels, right? So what happens at the end of the book would have been the thing would have been the hook of the book, and then you would have still had 400 more pages to read. So they're just really simplistic, like but Catalyst was better. Like, they actually worked. Apparently the writer worked with the story department. So all I can say is it's a good book. It's worth. I definitely would get the audiobook just so you can listen to it, because the acting's pretty good.
Yeah.
And it sets up the movie. I actually, before you watch it a second time, I'd go read the book, come back, watch the movie, and be like, oh shit,
Yeah,
So,
I actually didn't know that there was a book. I just busy, but man, I'm gonna have to check it out. I normally like when there's books that go along with stuff like the Dragon Age games. I read all the books before I play the game, and it just seems better. But I can see what you're saying, where you shouldn't have to have required reading, but you're never gonna be worse off for reading something that's going to expand on what you're about to experience.
well, I mean, it's like there just isn't enough. The universe is so big, there isn't enough. They can't make. What are they gonna make? Rogue One into 3 movies? Rogue One Part 1? That would be great, right? Let's just hobbitize all these fucking films and drag the fuck out of this. Right? We're making a trilogy of Rogue. Could you imagine if that was Disney says they're making a trilogy of Rogue One movies? Fuck, there isn't enough story to tell. I mean, there's a contrarian problem right now where the minute we get one thing, we immediately go, well, that's fucked up. It could have been this. It could have been that. And it could have been this. And look, we're here talking about what we like and we didn't like. And are there things that could improve? Absolutely. For me at this point, I accept 80%. If any book, movie, video game gets me 80% over the line, that's a win. And let me explain to you why. One, I'm selfish. So I'm sort of future-proofing my own stories that are going to be coming out in the next year. I will never get 100% there. So I better really appreciate
just
the 80.
Finish it. Just finish it, Rob.
Yeah, just finish it. Doesn't matter what you write down. Just finish something. It could be just the word shit repeated for 100 pages, and that's done. So read into
Finish,
it.
not perfect.
Yeah, I get what he's saying, but it's funny. It's except when you finish a movie like Batman v Superman, you're like, you know what? It's Batman. It better be perfect. Hey, they fucking got Batman and Robin out on time. They made that movie. That got done.
Hey, real quick, Ash in the chat room. He knows his Star Wars shit. He's been on point on everything he said, but also he was saying that he read Aftermath and Bloodline and they weren't that good. Very simple stories. But he agrees with you about the audiobooks, that they're awesome because they add all the cool sound effects and all kind of different things that go along with it. So
yeah, they're more like audio dramas read by one guy or one lady. I'd say Bloodline, the writing is fine, except that the content of the story doesn't need. I don't want to spoil that. The end of that book would have been the setup for another book back in the day. And there's this whole space battle at the end that is just ridiculous. Claudia Gray is not good at writing X-Wing fucking like spaceship battles. It's not a good idea.
Pew pew pew.
Right. But a movie that's based around one of my favorite books was the Rogue Squadron books, right? Which was just about Wedge Antilles and his group of dudes. And my second favorite series was Wraith Squadron, which was all about the Imperial fighters fighting the rebellion. I love those series. And it's this gets me closer. I mean, when Gold Leader shows up, they got that footage of the old 70s dudes, you know what I mean? Showing up, and I just sat there. My wife was looking at me, and I was just I love the old guys, and I like that a lot of the dudes here that are fighting are Blue Leader, the guy's got a mustache and shit, he's an older guy. They all aren't. Remember Freddie Prinze Jr. and Wing Commander? Remember that movie? And I thought the movie did a fantastic job of showing, look, there's black people. Look, there's fucking Asian people. Look, there's Steven's girlfriend. Look, there's fucking there's aliens. When that little alien's on the ground in Jeddah, and he's like a little dude. I get so happy watching little puppets with guns kill things.
That is actually true for anyone thinking Rob is bullshitting. Rob loves animatronic or puppet or stuff like that. He really does.
My dream job was professional wrestler. I won't lie. An 80s level professional wrestling. Unfortunately, I got the scar on my eye because I tried to do that, and I don't like getting hit. My backup plan was Muppet dude. Like I want to be a Muppeteer, you know? No good at voices. I got my voice, and that's it. I'm no good at, like, I don't I'm no good at voices. But I fucking love
to see you try and wrestle. That'd be amazing.
Well, I was really good at, like, all the, what they call it, the K-Fab, all the storyline stuff, you know, and, like, the entrance and the Korean drama. I was the, what was my name? I don't want to come with that right now. I think it was, like, the Redeemer, the Apostle. I think it was, I wanted to be, like, the anti-Undertaker, and I had, like, I had that, the guy from Coming to America, you know, the Baptist, like, I had a black Baptist, like, reverend as my fucking, like, manager and shit. Like, I got my black friend. It was going to be the best, dude, you know, and just Randy Watson. So, anyhow, folks, this movie did a really awesome job of all that stuff. It also does something that, and let me tell you, this movie does, the one thing I like about Star Wars, more than comic book universes, short of what's going on in Netflix right now. Netflix is the only thing that's doing it right, in my opinion, is that people can die. And I gotta be honest with you, folks, like, people can die in the Incredibles film. How come they can't die in Civil War?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, dude got sucked into a jet turbine just because he wore a cape in the Incredibles. Like, didn't make it. You know, like, how come no one can die in a Marvel movie, man? You know, like, go ahead.
I think that's one of their biggest problems with Marvel, and I think that's why I'm kind of disinterested, is, like, you go in and there's no stakes. Like, literally Civil War, it's a war. Somebody's supposed to, like, go down, like...
Not even the bad guy.
Yeah, nothing really. Just people that you don't know and don't care about, and it's like, how are you going to weigh those stakes on an audience, and how are you going to feel it? Like, I think that's kind of the strength of, like, shows like Game of Thrones. Like, every time your favorite hero gets into a fight, if they make it out, you are legitimately relieved because they could just die. But you don't get Marvel. You just feel safe every time they're in a fight. It's like, oh, well, they'll get out of it somehow.
Except for the Netflix shows.
Yeah.
Which the Punisher will kill you with a coffee pot. Like right in the throat, too. Just the meanest. Oh no, man, Jaws was nicer. You know, like and also, here's a standout to Rogue One. That little girl who was crying on Jeddah, right, during the battle. That's what all those younglings should have been doing in Revenge of the Sith, right? Like, they all got the Force. They should have seen what was coming. The blind dude could see more than those little kids. That little kid was screaming like, damn, that's exactly what I'd be doing. I wonder what they had to do to get her going like that.
That's the same little girl from Pacific Rim that we liked. It's the same one. She's just a professional screamer. She's actually like 42. You just don't know it. And it's the same actress.
Brandon thought it was my girlfriend.
Oh, you know, I don't remember you now. When I think about it, I just don't remember you whatsoever.
Steven's fitting right in. I'm glad Steven could come on with this.
Me too.
Yeah, everyone likes it. So, my only criticism of the film, if I had to be pretty nitpicky about it, again, the opening crawl, and they got to give. Look, I love the music. I love it. I don't care what anyone says. I love the music. I think, though, that it's unfair to give the guy I've been waiting since 1999, 2000, somewhere around then, Michael Giacchino. Ever since he did Medal of Honor, the very first game, I'm like, this guy should be fucking doing a Star Wars score. You know? Ever since that moment, they finally let him do one, and he had 4 weeks to do the score. I love the themes, guys. I love them. I don't care. People say, I don't know, it's not a Star Wars score. I like it. That being said, it would have been nice to give him more than 4 weeks. I would love to know what the hell happened. That was like not 5 weeks? You know, like...
You only had 4 weeks to do that score?
Yeah, because the composer quit.
I actually really dug the music all the way through because it kind of felt like familiar, and then it would kind of go off onto its own thing. Yeah,
just and he put violins back in, which I haven't heard since episode 4. Since the original, like if you ever listen to the soundtrack to Star Wars: A New Hope. Williams wrote full themes for like Princess Leia and for Luke. Like you would just listen to it, and it would just be this theme that played through. It wasn't actual music. That theme was put through the movie, but there was these themes that he would just make. And like Leia's theme was very violins, and Luke's was very trumpets, and there's all that kind of stuff in the score, which I love. I just wish they would have given him even more time. Like, man, imagine if he had 5 weeks, like 4 weeks in a day. What could he have done with the day? Again, like Schindler's List. That's a bad joke to make. But as bleak as this film, and it's great to see that this film's bleaker. I think the Solo movie, which is the next standalone story, will be probably a lot more Guardians of the Galaxy-ish, right? Probably a lot more fun. So, for me, the other thing was getting to see Vader's castle. Like, that was a piece of concept art that Ralph McQuarrie did for Jedi way back in the day. Like, originally it was the Emperor's Palace or whatever. It was supposed to be underneath in the bowels of Coruscant. So being able to get to see that, for me, was like fucking awesome. And then just getting to hear James Earl Jones do something other than yell no was amazing. Did
you like his corny dad joke?
Yeah, but he says stupid shit. Go listen to the fucking. He's making jokes in Empire. Like, you gotta listen. He talks shit, dude. Vader's always talked a little shit. Like, like there's just, Jedi.
The Bacta tank was amazing. That thing was so cool.
Dude, the ending scene was just phenomenal. Like, that's where you just think the movie's over, right? That's it.
Yeah.
It's just, when's it gonna go? Yeah. Oh, it's just gonna go. And then you see that room, like, oh, that must be. And then the Vader, and you're like, oh shit. Yeah, he just fucks dudes up.
Yeah, I think the coolest part about it is like that could have been the main characters in that hallway. It just goes to show you like how next level Vader is in comparison to soldiers. Like, yeah, you're not gonna stand a chance like against this guy.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that eventually, if they do make a Boba Fett movie, we get to see him and Vader. And we can find out about the no disintegrations line. Gotta be, right? Matter of fact, call it disintegrations. Like, and Vader's looking at him. He's like, yeah, I know. So, yeah, they did a good job, man. I give the movie a 9. It's a solid 9. It got me to go see it twice in the same weekend, and I'll happily buy it. The 3D conversion was amazing, folks. I don't know about you, but when I was on that Moncal and the guy's looking down, and you could see from the Moncal, the Winston Churchill dude, down to the surface below, I was like, whoa, shit. I got the willies.
Yeah.
Like
the depth on the 3D was really good. That's what I was saying because I saw it in IMAX 3D when they're on the ground and you got those camel creature AT whatever walking around.
The AT-ATs, dude.
Yeah, okay. So those things walking around, like just the scope of everything is just the depth of it was so awesome. Just the broad. It wasn't enclosed. It was just this massive area of just scenery and depth and things forward and backwards. It was great. So,
and for people who didn't enjoy
see an IMAX 3D,
and for people who didn't enjoy the movie, I feel bad for them. I do, because I'm like, man, I don't know. You can lose. You can get older where you're like, oh, I'm not into this anymore. I need something more gritty and real. I, on the other hand, really prefer at this point. I'm like, I want to go to another universe right now. I want to hang out somewhere else. And I know, Steven, I don't want to throw you under a bus. I know you like the Warcraft movie, but for me, I was like, can't do it, man. Can't do it.
Hey, I can be real about it. Like, I understand that it wasn't a good movie. I could pick that movie apart. I'll actually say that the first 15 minutes in Rogue One were very similar, though.
Well, that's where the movies need
jumping around so much.
The movies need less Lord of the Ringsy world building and more character stuff. We can all agree on that, right? Like when characters are experiencing something versus trying to get all this plot, like set up. And hopefully they'll think about this. Like, it took the Marvel movies were hit and miss until Avengers. Some people are like, I loved Iron Man, hate Iron Man 2. Thor was okay. Love Captain America, hate Captain Pym. Some people hate Captain America, if you can believe that. People forget the Hulk even came out. Like, I try to tell people, like, if you can line this up with Marvel, their first hit was Iron Man, right? Force Awakens came out, destroyed expectations. Second movie came out at Marvel was Incredible Hulk. This is no Incredible Hulk. This made more money I think it's opening weekend than the entire run of the Incredible Hulk, or whatever they were called, that movie. So they're already doing quite well. DC's 0-2, as far as I'm concerned. Or they're 1-2 because Man of Steel I enjoyed, even though it's got bad plot issues. But this is a universe I'm happy to go back. I just hope, they keep it at Christmas. Gotta be honest, folks. If the year is really not going the way I want it, I look forward to Christmas being my Star Wars present day. As an older guy, I'm like, I don't need toys and presents, but I do like getting to unwrap that Star Wars present. Every year. I don't want it to go back to May. To be honest, I don't.
There's too many movies in May, and I don't know. It feels kind of like an event when Star Wars comes out in the middle of the winter. It's like, I don't know. There's not really anything coming out this month aside from that.
Here's something. Steven, you mentioned about the game movies. You want game movies to do better. Armando says Assassin's Creed is not getting good reviews. We're talking about the Warcraft movie. What if the greatest video game movie ever made ends up being a Battlefront film? What if Star Wars ends up Force Unleashed, the movie? What if they end up doing a video game adaptation as a film, and that ends up being the best?
Does that count though? Because it's like,
yes,
it was a movie that went to game and then came back out.
Sure.
And are we going through Star Killer? Because if it's Star Killer, I'd probably be down. Because I actually really like that first Force Unleashed game.
Yeah, or Battlefront. You could call it whatever you want. Oh, I want Battles for Naboo. I want Battle for Naboo. Want Battle for Naboo the game. Or Yoda's fucking, what was that Yoda game that was on desktop? Yoda Stories? That was so bad. There were some really bad Star Wars games. Final thoughts, Steven, on the movie? Anything you forgot? Anything you want to wrap up? Anything you want
to? I feel like I kind of complained about it. It's still an 8. I think it's my number one favorite Star Wars movie is The Force Awakens, then Empire, and then this. And it's very close. As much as I griped, I guess I just wanted more characters or more time with the characters, and that's not a bad thing. You leave a movie and it's like, oh, I wish I could have been around them a little bit longer. You know what I mean?
Well, I forgot to tell you, we have a new scoring system here at SketchCraft. Our new scoring system is we're now rating everything on Van Damme's. So the total amount of score is out of how many movies Van Damme got out right now, Brandon?
I believe when I checked last, it was 64.
Okay, so out of a possible score of 64 Van Dammes, how many Van Dammes would you give this film?
57 Van Dammes.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's not time cut money here, folks. That's definitely, yeah, I like it. Brandon, out of a score of possible 64 Van Dammes, how many Van Dammes you give Rogue One?
Steven, you said 57?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to Price Is Right your ass, and I'm going to go 58 Van Dammes.
Oh!
Can we win something?
Rob's affection. That's what we're fighting for.
My wife's still working on that one, guys. I don't. Unless you're a little furry dog or a puppet with a gun, you got a long ways to go. And I'm going to give this a solid 60 out of 64 Van Dammes. I think the movie did a phenomenal job, and if they could just get back to an opening crawl, 1 and 2, cut down on a little bit of the plot, I think you're going to end up with a Star Wars movie actually winning an Oscar at some point. People go, that's crazy. That could never happen. Remember, the original Star Wars was up for Best Picture. Got beat out by Annie Hall. Remember that movie?
I can see it happening. It's going to be just a character-driven Star Wars piece. I guarantee you it'll happen.
Armando gives it 56 out of 64 Van Dammes. Dude, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. We're talking about Universal Soldier territory there, buddy. That's pretty good. And we all know Van Damme's best film was No Retreat, No Surrender. So, it's going to be hard to get up on that level. All right, everybody. So that's it for this week's episode. Steven, where can people discover your work on the internet?
Probably the best spot is Instagram.com/CrowsToons. CrowesToons.
And we'll put a link below when this goes live, so you'll be able to check out his stuff there. I have a feeling Steven will be returning to the podcast whenever he can get around to it.
That would be awesome.
He's a busy dude. He's a busy dude. And Brandon, where can people complain to you on the internet?
You can find me on the Instagrams at leadheavy, Lead heavy.
All right, everybody. And as always, join me here in a few when I go to do some digital inking on this GTA cover because we got works to do. Until next time, see y'all later, folks. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Rob, no.
Bye, Armando. Bye, Ash. Bye, everybody.